Well, I'm very excited to be sitting down with two of our most exciting founders and friends, Amy and Pip. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who would have thought we'd be sitting here at the Peregian Digital Hub talking about a very fast-growing and exciting AI startup that you're the co-founders of. Tell us a little bit about how that came to be.
Yeah, well, I guess Pip and I started off in the advertising industry, over 15 years ago, and we were both kind of in media agencies, creative agencies in Australia, and then moved over to San Francisco. Both moved into kind of client roles over there. I was at Twitter and then Shopify, and Pip was in the kind of Web3 space. And we came back to Australia, had a baby, and while we were working, we both got laid off within kind of 3 weeks of each other.
Yeah, so tell us about, the moment you get laid off. Obviously, that's, for most people, that would be a horrifying situation. I'm sure it is for most people, but...
Absolutely, I think Pip came downstairs and cheered.
I loved it.
I was so
excited
because it was hard. We were, new baby and working, 18 hours, across the world, like in different time zones, and so we both kind of had this breathe out moment. Okay, what do we want now? Let's figure it out as a family, as a unit, and it was this beautiful moment of just pausing. And then let's go again. And we joined forces, we started consulting, doing some work at home, and in our spare time we had this beautiful thing which was free time, where we could actually play and figure out things and explore things that we hadn't ever explored before. And it was kind of at this time where AI was kicking off and bubbling, and lots of people were talking about it, and selfishly we were playing around with it and figuring out how we could use it to accelerate some of our work and still, pull in that nice healthy day rate that we were getting at the time. And yeah, through play, through experimentation, which is something that we've always been really excited about, we figured out how we could use it and apply AI in an interesting way to accelerate the thinking process that we were utilising every single day in our work. And Pip was, somewhat avoiding dad duties and taught himself how to code. So that was, also a really fun thing for him to kind of play with and experiment kind of on the coding side. And he ended up, developing these tools that we now called Springboards. And it started as 6 tools and echoed kind of the brand strategy all the way through to kind of tactical executions, which is, within the creative process.
What were some of those early experiments you were tinkering with?
The first experiment was just using ChatGPT and Midjourney to see if you could use these tools to help in a traditional agency process. And the first experience was you can, but it's a hell of a lot of hard work.
Oh, we're going back a good 18 months ago.
This is 18 months, 2 years ago. And the very first example was
what was the first?
It was a tractor. It was we're going to create a tractor brand.
Oh,
and I remember there was the first little LinkedIn post that said, I'm going to see how far I can get with AI to help in the agency process. And someone in the comment thread said, this is a very digital, astute, lead generation post, Pip. And it was an ex-colleague of mine who ended up working at a tractor business. And I said, thanks, Ross. I'm now going to create a tractor to take you out of business, and created a tractor called, what was it called? The Terramorph. And it was a half, it was a tractor that was half utility, but half ATV. So you could work on Monday to Friday doing your hard duties, but then on the phone you can go rip it around and have some fun. And I was cool, how do you use these things to play and experiment, build brand books and personas and all these other things? And that was the first thing. And
did you post that back on
LinkedIn? Posted on LinkedIn. Actually, I think you forced me to come and tell people about it here as well at the time, to pull it into a deck and then turn that into a workshop. And I think going through that process got me thinking about where the technology was good, but also where the product sucked. And I've always thought that, and this is 2 years ago, so it was GPT probably 3 and Midjourney with spaghetti arms. I don't know what version that was. But it was a quick realization that the tech was good, the product was bad. And I always felt that the product was bad because chat as an interface, opinion of one, is puts all the onus on the end user to understand what questions to ask, what is good like, and then to constantly iterate and iterate and iterate to get anything that resembles something being half decent. So that was kind of the original thing. So we went from playing to turning that into a workshop to going, hey, there's got to be a better way. And that's where we started to code to work out how do you build these things to make it more efficient, more fun, faster. So
I remember at the time there was a lot of thought sort of going into the idea that these tools would just sort of replace creative people. You know, you wouldn't really need a marketing or brand agency anymore to do this sort of work. And you very much took the opposite side of that bet and continue to do so. Tell us about your philosophy there and you know, why you believe that, or tell us what you believe.
Yeah. So there was obviously that famous quote from Sam Altman that said, like, you know, in 5 years, 95% of agencies are going to be dead. But I think what a lot of people don't understand is that clients they don't pay for just the work. They pay for a lot more than the work. They pay for an outsider's perspective. They pay for innovation, which comes from clashing two things together. Would you say it's fair to say they pay for someone to blame when shit goes wrong?
Yep.
And to take the onus off themselves as well. And so our bet is that agencies won't die. They will look very, very different. But there's just so much inherent value in an outsider point of view, someone to blame, and someone who really understands the craft of what good creativity is.
So you're noodling, you're playing with these things, you're putting it out on LinkedIn, you're getting some interesting feedback and some traction. At what point does the business idea sort of start to percolate and you think, wow, there's maybe a business to be built here?
Yeah. Was it, I would say Sydney, down in Sydney.
Yeah. So the first, the first one was, we effectively, the very first version of the platform was GPTs before GPTs existed. And I remember showing a couple of people going, hey, this is way more interesting. You put in a few little inputs and you get something that resembles that's way, way better than what you'd get out of ChatGPT. And we talked ourselves onto a stage in Sydney, which was like a conference for advertising professionals playing around with AI pretty early. And we said, oh yeah, we're building this thing, kind of.
Made it sound like we'd done something more.
Yeah, like here's a brand book of something that I created actually very, very manually, and here's the concept. And they said, cool, yeah, you can go and talk about it, because no one had anything to prove at that point. And at that point, we're like, oh shit, we actually need to build this thing now. So we then took it from a MVP of literally just Python code into an MVP with a user credentials and a pretty basic UI, UX. So that was probably the first little spark, and off the back of that we had agencies saying, hey, we'll give you money for this.
Yeah, I think like the most profound thing was, you know, we went down there very like humbly, like presenting, oh, this is a bit of fun that we've been having, this is how we're using AI to make our stuff quicker, and wanting it just to share it back with the industry and share learnings, and walking away with this kind of like, can we buy it, can we join you?
And can we invest?
And can we, yeah.
There was three questions.
And kind of got home and we're like, oh, okay, like we thought this was pretty cool, but there's obviously something here that is potentially scalable that we could actually lean into. And so we had, like, as Pip and I do, we make decisions in about 20 seconds for most of our life decisions. And we said, hey, let's put pens down on everything else and let's just go all in on this and just see where it takes us.
Yeah. We bought the domain name while we're eating sushi.
We had sushi, we
get the
came
phone
up with Springboards, we bought the domain name. Like, it was kind of this just, again, this energy of play and following that kind of, oh, this feels good, this feels exciting, let's just run with it. And didn't really worry about how we'd get there, just knew that there was something to chase.
Yeah, they say sometimes, you know, you really know you're onto a good thing when the market sort of pulls the product out of you.
That's exactly what it was.
You know, it's not a feeling I've ever had, but I'm glad you guys have had that
Yeah.
feeling.
We had people paying us for the product before it was a product. And
Yeah.
we're like, oh, this, like, we can make money out of this. So then we're like, we've got to find devs to build it.
So let's talk about what it is today. Tell us about the product. What's the proposition? How does it work? What's the business model?
Yeah.
Give us a bit of a sense of where Springboards is fully 18 months into its existence.
Yeah, so Springboards started, I think I said, as, you know, essentially 6 boards or 6, you know, mini products. And essentially it's a set of tools to help you get through the creative process. So whether that's brand strategy, coming up with insights, writing a creative brief, coming up with TV scripts or outdoor ads, or even just visualizing those things into, you know, static assets, and kind of takes you through that you know, traditional creative process in, you know, somewhat 10 minutes at times, depending on how quickly you go through it. And so that is Springboards. It's taking you through that advertising creative process, but quicker than you could do on your own.
What business problem do you think it's sort of solving?
There's 2 major ones. One is that the industry's had shrinking margins forever. Like for the last 20, 30, 40 years, margins have been on decline. And one of the major contributing factors to that is the pitch-in problem in the industry. So most people don't realise, but when the way that an agency will win the right to do the work for a client is that the client will put that work out to tender. So let's say whoever, McDonald's or ANZ Bank will say, hey, we need a new agency, we're going to put this out to tender. And they'll go through a process of going from 10 agencies, meetings, down to 5 agencies, or 3 to 5 agencies. And in order to decide which agency to work with, because they all sound great when you're chatting to someone, they put out a fictional brief. And these agencies work for free without any money and put in an incredible amount of time and effort, to the order of costing agencies in Australia between $1 to $3 million each every single year just pitching. And this is true in every single market. The US, it costs on average $200,000 to $400,000 each every time they pitch. So these bills add up. And this is not just head hours operational costs, but it's also freelance costs and research and everything associated with that. So that's kind of the big problem, is that it's margins and the pitching problem which contributes to that, and the need to go faster and faster and faster. And what Springboards does is, like we say, it's an idea accelerator effectively, because the way that we think about AI is that we don't want to give people the answer. We want to throw 1,000 answers at them as sparks for inspiration, so that they, the person who understands what good creativity is in their own sense of craft, can work out where to take it. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so it's sort of emerging as a vertical SaaS business, effectively
exactly
focused
what it
on
is. Vertical SaaS.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what are your sort of ideal customers at this stage? Before you answer, just hold that thought.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
What are your ideal customers at this point in time?
Ideally, indies, like small, like medium, small to medium agencies that are independent, that, you know, don't necessarily have the horsepower of, you know, the large holding cos, and are able to be nimble in terms of technology adoption and utilisation as well, because, you know, some of the holding groups have even gone out and said, you know, we're building our own thing, and great, good luck. It's, you know, they're not in the business of technology, and it's a big thing to kind of take on, to try and develop something like that yourself, particularly when, you know, that's not your bread and butter in your day to day. I mean, you guys all know how tricky it is even just to keep ahead of what's going on in AI when that's kind of your core business, right? Let alone when it's a side project or a side hustle. So we've kind of thought, okay, let's go after the indies that, you know, are trying to compete with the big holding cos that are, you know, flexible, nimble, agile, and able to kind of, as I said, adopt technology as quickly as possible to help them, win the pitching problem, but then other things like keeping their people happy, allowing their people to go home by 5 o'clock, allowing them not to have to work every single weekend for 6 months to pitch and pitch and pitch, plus do their day jobs. Is kind of another thing that it helps with too.
What stage are we at? I mean, you know, it sounds like a rapid scaling challenge, because you need to capture market share, and obviously that involves sort of moving quickly and growing as quickly as possible. Where are you guys at in terms of building the company?
We're pushing 100 agencies around the world, across Europe, the States, Australia, Singapore, New Zealand. We're going pretty quickly. We could always go faster. The thing that makes, we're very, very particular about who we even let into the platform. There's no self-sign-up. We demo the product, we onboard people one-on-one. So there's a lot of inefficiencies there that we'll look to fix over time. But half of that reason, the way we do it that way as well, is to ensure that we've got a very strong view on how we think AI should be used as a springboard, like the clues in the name, not as the answer. And we want to be stay true to that as much as we can. And by almost gatekeeping who has access to it allows us to stay true to that philosophy. But at the same time, I think it also it makes it easier to sell. It's true to our brand, our positioning. People love our brand as much as our product, and I think part of the reason for that is because we do take it seriously. It's not just free for all, open up, anyone can get in. I think things will change over time.
What's the team look like these days?
I've got about 10 devs. Within those 10 devs, we have 2 PhDs in machine learning and a 17-year-old dev with 10 years coding experience, who's been teaching AI since he was 13 and is an international maths wizard. So that's the dev team, and it's expanding. We have salespeople in New York, London, Amsterdam, Sydney, UI UX people, operational type team, business operations stuff.
Wow. That has happened extremely quickly.
Yeah, we're hiring another 7 at the
6 or
moment.
7,
we've gone from 3 people in January to about 30 odd. We're probably about 20 now. We'll grow to 30 before the end of the year.
Wow.
So it's gone.
And main objective is market share expansion. Is that what you're focusing on?
Yeah. We could do that better. It's not really just about market share. We're priced extremely at a massive premium. If we're going after market share, we'd drop the price and would be $50 a month. We're not $50 a month. We're 10x that. I think we're both building market share with a sustainable business practices, not just about burning money as quickly as you can to grab market share.
And I think we've always been, as you said earlier, we always wanted to give this to people to help them be better. And I think we've been maybe too delicate about that.
Yeah.
But I think it's helped us definitely to date, because we've had every single person that we've onboarded, every single person that's used the platform is an industry legend of sorts, and is actively going out there and saying, thank you, this has helped me, this is how it's helped me, we've won a pitch, we've come up with better ideas, my teams are happier, the work's better.
Are there any particular stories you can share of things that make you really pleased about the impact the product's having?
I think I love even just going to an industry event and Pip might be on stage talking about Springboards and the whole audience is advocates already of us, and they're putting their hands up saying, we use Springboards and we love it and it's so cool and everyone should get on board and everyone should try it. So it's I think that for me is
There's a couple of other
cool.
ones as well. We haven't done any PR release, not a cent on marketing. Our website sucks. It is 100% word of mouth, 100% inbound. I think we've probably we've spoken to, I don't know how many agencies. I'd have to go and look.
Hundreds.
Yeah, a lot more than the 100 that we've converted. So there's that personal story, but then the individual user stories. I've got a couple of quotes I love. We have a freelancer in Amsterdam who told me, his direct quote was, "I feel like with Springboards, I can take on any agency in the world." And that's what this thing I think is awesome, when it's in the hands of someone who's knows their craft so well, but may not have the resources of a whole team behind them. We'd give them a whole team behind them. So that was one I loved. I had another quote from a guy who said, the only problem with Springboards is I don't have enough briefs to answer anymore. And then the other stories that we get all the time is like, we've won work off the back of this. We had one agency, we started with one seat, and I think in 3 months that they trialed the product, they won a bunch of work, which is not solely contributed to us, but was a part of that, where the clients like called out the idea that was inspired through our platform. It was like, oh, we won the pitch because of that. And as a result, they went from one seat to rolling out a fully custom model for all 200 of their staff.
Wow.
And so that's embedded now into their strategic process, the way that they think, the way that they do their work.
So just talk a little bit about the custom model. How does that work?
Yeah.
Without giving away all
Yeah,
the
no.
secrets, but-
I'll tell you how it works. The hesitation comes from like, I'm like, shit, do we really want to keep doing custom? Because it's a hell of a lot of hard work. But basically what we do is we sit down with an agency and we will do a half-day workshop to go, tell us about your style, philosophy, process, the work you're proud of, the work you're inspired from. We whiteboard it all up. We go, cool, if you could like rebuild this, how would you like it? And we take all of that away. And then we effectively use the shell that we have, but we rebuild it through the lens of what the style, the work, and the process that they go through. So it's embedded to their strategic process. Wow. It's obviously super sticky, but it takes a lot of work to not necessarily just build, but to maintain.
Yeah.
As you know, like these things are constantly changing.
Yeah.
And then so maintaining 2 sets of models, and if you continue to like roll out custom approaches for everyone,
it's very challenging.
It gets challenging. So I'm just trying to think of like, how do you build more customizable aspects into the platform? So if your super users want to go down that rabbit hole themselves, then there's the ability for them to do that.
Very cool. Switching gears, what's it been like building a company here in little old Noosa on the Sunshine Coast? How have you found that?
Funnily, I think we struck gold being here and not somewhere else. And I think, hats off to you actually for giving us the wings to even play in this space. I don't think we would have had that kind of opportunity if we were in Sydney. And that support and that community and the confidence as well to just run at something. There's a little bit of something that happens when you come to one of these remote communities as well, is that you have to kind of create your own success. And in Sydney it's very easy, and we probably would have just fallen into day jobs, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And here it was like, no, we made the decision when we got made redundant, we want to stay here. Okay, how do we stay here? And we literally created something from nothing. And in saying all of that, the other beautiful thing with a community is that with living kind of in a smaller place, is there's this community that you can lean on and leverage and give back to. And I think that's been one of the most rewarding and exciting things to be a part of, is having your mentorship in particular to give things a go and experiment and educate us in your sessions.
That's very kind.
Yeah.
What's it? I mean, you guys are very obviously very family focused and doing things your way in building this company. I think one of my favorite memories was walking past the window of the room next door and seeing you guys pitching a VC with the baby bassinet in the room. I've never seen that before, and
Yes.
kudos to both you guys for being able to raise pretty significant investment round, but kudos to the VC for backing you and sort of understanding that you guys are building something in your own particular way. What's that been like now, taking on venture capital investment, and
it's been
how
good.
have you found that part of the journey?
Yeah, it's been really good. So for us, like, we didn't know about the world of VC. Like, you take us back 9 months ago. Like, if someone said, "What does VC mean?" We'd be, I don't know. Like,
We would have not known.
yeah, I can't
didn't
even
have
think of
any
an acronym
context.
for VC. I was trying to think off the top of my head. We just didn't know what it was. And so like, to take a step back, how we got there is that we built the version. We had people willing to give us money. We built the version. we had 30 agencies in the span of like 3 months doing demos from like 6 a.m. to 9:30 off the back of a tweet that kind of went semi-viral, which didn't mention us, but people worked out who it was. And then we got to this point where another mentor from within the community said, oh, maybe you should start chatting to VC. You probably, looks like you might be onto something. And made an introduction to one of the VCs. And we had a meeting with them and it went well, but we didn't know what to expect. We weren't prepared. We just kind of rocked up and said, this is what it is. And there were signs there that they were super keen, and we're like, oh, we can't just speak to one VC. Who else do we speak to? And we asked other people, and they said, oh, speak to these guys. And then they said, speak to Square Peg, Airtree, Blackbird, and EVP. And we didn't know who any of these people were. And we're just like, okay, we'll chat to them. Someone said speak to it. We didn't do our homework. We didn't research who are the people that we're speaking to, and so I think that process for us, there was no nervousness about it. We knew we had a business that was profitable already, that was growing, and yeah, we had a 3-week-old baby strapped to our chests,
pitching with Lottie on me. And
Kieran, our founding, our dev partner, was like, oh, I hate VCs, and his tune has changed now. He's like, I don't want to do it. So I think it was I think that was part of the appeal, is this is what it is. We've got a vision for where this thing's going, and yeah, and so we went through that process. Like you said, we landed some VC, and we've had an exceptional, I think, relationship with them. And we chat to Kieran now, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm so glad we did this. Because it's meant that we can do, it's meant some of the ideas that we've got in our heads, we can see them come to fruition. And that's the exciting part. I love jumping into the platform every day and there's something new that we don't even tell people about, but it just pops up cool, that's built now. And so what it allows us to do and play with is super cool. And they've been really great partners where they're like, you guys know what you're doing. They get out of the way. It's been nothing but a really positive experience so far. We'll wait till shit fucks up and then we'll ask that question again. Yeah.
No, but we wouldn't have been able to scale as quickly as we have without funding. In truth, we've got now an amazing team that work really, really hard. And as Pip said, we are allowed to push the product more and more every single day. And we should be doing that at lightning speed while we can, while there isn't any competitor, and while it's still very much a new shiny object. So it's been good.
Given how quickly things are moving, sort of in terms of the underlying AI capabilities that we're all benefiting from tapping into, how is your sort of view shifting on what you think might be possible in terms of a creative assistant in the future to help your clients? How do you see that evolving?
Yeah, I really don't like all the agentic stuff that's popping up in the world. Even the stuff I think it was Anthropic came out with the mouse controlling your
Using
monitor.
the computer.
Blows my mind. It's wild. But it doesn't change our point of view. So our point of view, our mission as a statement is to keep people in the creative equation. And I think people will always want that, regardless of how good the technology gets. Because these agents can quickly go down weird rabbit holes. If everyone's using them, everything gets pushed into the middle. So there's some fundamental flaws on how these things are actually built and work. So we just stay true to cool, how do we keep people involved in creativity? And how do we make sure that it is a human endeavor? And I often say it's like a Terminator story, where using AI to almost fight AI. You get the AI and the humans partnered up against the evil AI, that's kind of what it is. It's a Terminator story, yeah? I think it's super cool, and it's great for us. So when I think about our dev team isn't 10 people that we pay. Our dev team is the dev team that's behind Anthropic and OpenAI and every other model out there. We're using 9 or 10 different Gen AI tools in the back end of the tool at the moment. So we've got the world's most funding. We just work out how to use it better and in a more interesting way.
And I mean, one of your unique challenges with this product is how do you, I think maybe the word would be sort of creative entropy? How do you keep
totally the problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where we tend to see that there's a bit of a reversion to the mean
Yeah.
in terms of creativity when we ask
Yeah.
these things to do stuff for us. That's the kiss of death for you, isn't it? In
Yeah.
terms of what you're building, it needs to
Yeah.
be anything other than the sort of reversion to the
Yeah.
mean. When you've got lots of different agencies using this tool, what are some ways you're thinking about
Yeah.
that creative entropy?
Yeah, and that's exactly like our technology problem. Because like AI is an answer machine. I want this, gives you an answer. And it gives you an answer in very confident tone that you think it's right. And what we try to do is go, we don't want to give you the answer, we want to give you inspiration. And if we're giving you inspiration, we constantly have to give you consistently good stuff, but with variation. And consistency and variation are opposites a lot of the time. And so that is like the technical challenge that we are solving as a business, I think. And that's what we've got our devs on a hackathon for the next 2 days, playing with a whole range of different techniques, everything from embedding models, playing with some fine tuning, but we're not big fans of it, but we still play with it, to thinking about how we build multiple models into how we prompt, all sorts of different things. It's like I often say it's a milkshake, but then my salespeople say, don't call it a milkshake, it downplays what this thing is. But it's like, it's just constant testing, iterating, setting up benchmarks, evaluation, staying on top of how everything changes. So it's like it's a full-time job, and we don't have a full-time person doing it, of constantly playing and pushing and experimenting and working out what works and what doesn't.
Ensuring you have that sort of creative piece.
Yeah.
Sort of strikes me that, we know it's pretty easy to prototype little things, but
Yeah.
building something that you can put in the hands of hundreds or thousands of enterprise customers or pretty significant customers, there's a lot of tooling and reliability aspects one needs to build into these products, the guardrails, the evals, all those sorts of things. So, undoubtedly, that's where a lot of your investment
Yeah.
efforts going right now is to build all that tooling, that
Yeah,
architecture.
and the balance, and this is the trick from a balance standpoint, is that there's a balance of focusing on all the back-end evals, variation, technique stuff to make sure that the core product's really good, while also keeping up with the demands of everything that we want this thing to do in terms of building new features and everything else. And those two things, it's like, well, no, you've got to slow down sometimes and speed up in others. I think why people love our products so much is that how quickly we release, change, evolve, update, make it better. So there's this constant speed, but also slowing down, which is a bit of a tension.
And I think like any technology product, you want it to be easy enough to use and easy enough to fit into an existing way of working. And I think we were always going to come up with that because it's a new technology. AI is new to a lot of agencies. And so we've, for the most part, always made decisions to make it feel as inherent to their process that they currently work within, so that we are part of that process, not kind of an add-on to that process. And that's a tricky balance to also strike because, it is so new. And I think that's where we're constantly tinkering is does this feel intuitive? Is this easy enough to pick up and run with? Does it fit into their current process? And we've actually released recently a collaboration element to the tool, knowing that agencies don't just jump on a computer and come up with ideas on their own. They actually then, take those ideas, they put them into a whiteboard type scenario, into a board, like in a boardroom, and they all get together and they comment and they create and they, kill things, as well. And I think, we've now got that capability built into the platform so that you can tag your teammates, you can comment on other people's work, you can contribute and add and make it better. And I think that will be a big game changer from where we were to where we are now.
Yeah, it's good. What's that design principle? It's like differentiated yet acceptable. I can't remember what it is. It's like about remote control. How do you design stuff which is pushing stuff as far as you can, but is not so foreign that people go, what the hell is this thing? So that's kind of something we try to do, to Amy's point, of like designing around an agency process that they're used to, And that's like the advantage of being insiders, of understanding what these businesses are and what they do. And we get people say that all the time. They go, we can tell the strategist has created this tool. Like not a big tech company that's just going, there's an opportunity there, let's go after it.
And I mean, a lot of our customers are also in the process of how do we now redesign our current agency process to put Springboards kind of at the heart of that, and then kind of push it out to the rest of the team, versus, as I said, it being an add-on thing. And so I think that's been really complementary to the current system and the current product, that people want to integrate it into their process.
Very cool. What does the next phase look like for you guys?
Lots. There's.
I think the big one for us is the US and Europe, and really kind of doubling down on those two markets. They're two obviously massive markets, but we've started in Australia. We've done really, really well here, but obviously Australia's a very small market, and we should run while we're hot. And the US and Europe are so hungry and excited. And so we're building out the team in those two markets very, very, very quickly, to your point, to gain share, to gain traction, to build a community. Like, we want to build not only this, beautiful product, but a beautiful community that is about creativity at the heart, in and around us, so that we're, getting feedback constantly from that community, that they become our, spokespeople, so to speak, and that we are also, underneath the product, re-educating the next generation of creative people and creative thinkers. Because I think when we think about any technology, it removes friction and it makes things really, really easy, but it can also make you incredibly mediocre at your craft. And I think we built this product out of the love of the industry and love of creativity. So it's a no-brainer for us that we have to then give back to that, and give opportunity for that craft to be learnt. And the craft isn't learnt by plugging something into,
an AI machine.
The craft is learnt like anything, like kids, by playing with things, by breaking things, by getting
drawing.
Frustrated, by drawing, by... I say to my 3.5-year-old, if you try, you will get there and you will figure it out. And it's not always fun. So, I think we hand on heart want to make sure that we're building that back into the community too.
Fantastic. Well, it's been very exciting seeing you take this from 0 to 1 as it is now, and knowing how dedicated you are to serving your customers and understanding what their needs are, and how creative you're being with applying, brand new things towards that mission. It's going to be exciting to see which direction it goes in. So thanks so much for coming along and sharing the Springboard story.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having us.
No problem.